So let's keep going. You guys did a nice job out there getting in, getting out, being quiet, letting me catch your numbers and all of that, so thank you. So basically we have Walter Raleigh. He tries to establish a colony in Roanoke Island. Then we have John White come and try to do the same thing. There were a few problems with that area. One of them is that it would flood very easily. The water was bad because it was still water. It wasn't moving. So this probably was not an ideal location to be coming to live. So we have poor John White. Goes to England. He's trying to get his people, supplies. Gets there, finds out that the English are at war with the Spanish. They take his ship, won't give him another ship, he has to wait. So he does. Probably didn't help the people at Roanoke Island much that he had to wait. So let's keep going. The Battle of the Spanish Armada. The Spanish Armada is going to be the Spanish Navy. So tensions were growing between England and Spain. England's attempt to build a colony in North America angered Spain's King Philip II. In addition, English sea captains had been raiding Spanish ships as they carried gold and silver from the Americas to Spain. So we have the English trying to establish colonies, which is ticking off the Spanish. We also have English sea captains who were basically robbing the Spanish, which is ticking off the Spanish. So the king is like, we're done. I've had enough. We're coming at you. Okay? So one of the most famous English captains was Francis Drake. And in 1577, Drake began a historic voyage around the world. When he returned to England in 1580, Drake's ship was loaded with gold and was captured by the Spanish ships. He became a hero in England, but the Spanish called Drake the master thief. Oh, I'm sorry. I goofed when I read that. Sir Francis Drake took gold from the Spanish. That's why they were calling him the master thief. All the gold that was on his ship when he came back was all stolen. Yes?
It's like, I think you had the other way around, because you said that the Spanish took from the English.
The English took from the Spanish.
Yeah, that's what,
okay.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. The English were thieving. Okay. In 1588, King Philip decided to attack England. He assembled the Spanish Armada, a huge fleet of warships. Armada is the Spanish word for fleet. With 130 ships carrying about 30,000 soldiers and sailors, the Spanish Armada met the English fleet off the coast of England. The Spanish were confident of victory. But the English Navy had some important advantages. The English ships were smaller and could move faster in the water. They also had more powerful guns. Lord Howard, commander of the English fleet, wrote of the Spanish, "Their force is wonderful, great and strong, yet we plucked their feathers by little and little." So even though the Spanish had these wonderfully huge ships, they were slow and they didn't have the same kind of weaponry. Many Spanish ships were sunk by English cannonballs. Others were caught in a storm and smashed against the rocky coast of Ireland. Of the Spanish Armada's 130 ships, only about 60 made it safely back to Spain. The Battle of the Spanish Armada was a major victory for the English. The victory helped make England one of the world's most powerful nations. Now English leaders could turn their attention back to founding colonies in North America. So John White shows up when all this is going on. Okay, this isn't something that happened in a day. This took some time. Now, the Jamestown colony. We have Roanoke Island. Doesn't work out. So the next thought here is, let's try a different location. Let's try Jamestown. So in 1606, a group of merchants formed the Virginia Company of London. They asked King James for a charter to set up a colony in Virginia. A charter was a document that permitted colonists to settle on land claimed by their ruler. The owners of the Virginia Company raised money by selling stock or shares in the company. Each person who bought stock in the company would earn a profit if the colony was successful. So what this means is, you could buy stock in this company, and let's say each share of it was $5. So y'all pay $5, and you all have a share in it now. Any money that is made by the colony, you're going to get paid back, and more. Okay, if you're familiar with the stock market, most of you probably are not, it's the same idea. Let's say you want to buy shares in Aeropostale. Maybe you buy it for $2, okay? And the price of the stock actually goes up. So now your share that you paid $2 for is worth $5. And maybe it goes up some more, and now it's worth $7. If you sell your stock then, you will make money. Okay? Because you only put $2 in to begin with, and you're going to get $7 back. What if what? What if it goes down? You've got shares that are worth less than you paid for them, and that happens. If you ever, tonight when you go home, turn on the news. There will be a screen that comes on, like right before a commercial, and it'll have a company name, it'll have a couple of letters, and it'll have a number, and there'll either be a green arrow up or a red arrow down. A green arrow up means that the stock is worth more today than it was yesterday. Red arrow down means it's worth less than it was yesterday. Okay? Yes?
So it's like you buy it for $2, and then whenever they raise the price, they think that you got it for $7, and then you can sell it for more.
Sure.
And then
Let's say you bought it for $2. Okay? Now it's worth $7, and you decide to sell it to Brianna. Brianna's going to buy it from you for $7. You're going to make $5 on it because you only put $2. Now she's got it for $7. Okay? Let's say it goes up to $14, and she decides that she wants to sell. Colette wants to buy. Colette buys it for $14. She's now made $7. That's why people do the stock market, because it's kind of like a gamble. It could go up, it could go down. So the same principle is applied here with these colonies. So if the colony ends up making money, you're going to earn some of that money. If you keep the stock, you're going to keep earning money. If you sell the stock, someone else is going to earn that money. Okay? Bailey, Alex.
what if you keep it for like a long time and don't sell it? Would you just keep earning more money?
You could.
Could you go down the price and then up again?
Yeah, it can do this.
So you can
So,
wait until it goes back
You
up?
could. You could wait. Other things that happen with the stock market is, let's say, they do something that's called splitting of shares. If you own one share and they split the shares, you don't own one anymore. Now you own two. So whatever you have, you double it. The price will go down, but you'll have twice as many. Okay? All right, let's keep going. So, in 1607, 3 English ships carrying about 120 colonists reached the eastern coast of Virginia. They sailed up a river which they named the James River in honor of King James. Looking for an area that would be easy to defend, they chose to unload their ships on a peninsula in the river. They called this spot Jamestown. One of the settlers, John Smith, called Jamestown a very fit place for erecting a great city. He was wrong. The land was low and swampy. The air was full of disease-carrying mosquitoes. The river water was not healthy to drink and made people sick. Almost as soon as they arrived in Jamestown, many settlers began to die. Okay, this is not it was a nice idea, because if you're on a peninsula, you can see who's coming on land and you can see who's coming on the water. But if you don't have good water to drink, that's a bad thing. If you've ever been to the South, North Carolina, Virginia, places like this, it's hot and humid. And if you're living near the water, you're going to have lots of mosquitoes, and mosquitoes are going to carry disease. So these people are going to have 2 problems now: bad water, mosquitoes with disease. Okay? Now Jamestown, you can go and visit Jamestown. It's there. Okay? It is under, right now, archaeological dig. So it's being excavated. Let me see if I can pull you something. People were mad at John Smith. to us.
Say, how many beaches do you have on
This has to do with the starving time, which we haven't gotten into yet.
there? Wow.
No. Okay, this is the area where Jamestown is located.
Why do they think that's a place for villages?
Well, I can't really tell you why they thought what they did. Probably because of it being on a peninsula, that was probably their best idea. We used to have some really good pictures of Jamestown. Here, take a look at this.
A video.
Mystery and intrigue surround the site of the 17th century coastal Powhatan Indian community of Werowocomoco along the banks of the York River in Virginia. It is here that Pocahontas once may have saved Captain John Smith from death at the hands of her father, paramount chief of the Powhatan Indians. History tells us little about the circumstances of this event or of the place where it occurred. The land tells a story of its own. In 1607, an English colony is founded in Jamestown in Virginia. The settlement is nestled in the woods along a flowing river and surrounded by marshlands. The colonists soon realize the land is different from that to which they are accustomed. The heat, wildlife, brackish water, and lack of food soon take a toll on the fledgling colony. Their king is an ocean away, and there are many challenges with leadership in Jamestown. The colony struggles. Sitting high on a bluff along a river to the north, there is a well-established place of power in the land the native people call Zenicomica. From here, a great leader wields dominant authority over thousands of people. He is Wahum Senecon, paramount chief of the Powhatan Indians, whom the English call the Powhatan. The place is Werowocomoco, seat of power for the Powhatan people. It is at Werowocomoco that John Smith and Wahum Senecon first meet, setting the course for future interactions between the English of Jamestown and the Powhatan Indian realm. It is a relationship structured around Wahum Senecon exchanging food for items with symbolic significance, such as copper and glass beads, and those with practical uses, such as iron tools. This relationship wavers between peaceful cooperation and open warfare over the course of many years. By 1609, Wahum Senecon decides to distance himself from Jamestown and leaves Werowocomoco, relocating to the west. In Virginia today, researchers, including members of the Virginia Indian community, believe they have found the Werowocomoco site in the Curtin Bay area along the York River. In addition to Powhatan Indian oral history and the few written descriptions and map notations that 17th century English colonists recorded, the landscape is providing valuable information about Werowocomoco's past. Archaeologists are making discoveries about this 17th century riverfront community by exploring the terrain and artifacts found in the site. A very large house that may be a chief's residence and extensive earthworks set the Werowocomoco site apart from other Powhatan Indian communities. But despite recent explorations of the land, many of Werowocomoco's secrets have yet to reveal themselves. Much remains to be discovered about this powerful place and the people who live there. Sponsored by Jamestown Settlement Museum in Williamsburg, Virginia.
So these Werowocomoco Indians, this group of people, they're going to be living really close to Jamestown. I have some pictures too of Jamestown Fort and the Jamestown settlement. So you can just turn the page and you can see the two places that they're talking about. John White ends up with the Powhatan Indians. You know that, well, I assume you know that, you know, the daughter said to the, that's not you, said, please don't kill this man. Okay? You've all seen the movie Pocahontas, I'm sure.
Yeah.
She pleads for his release. So, I don't know.
I couldn't understand him.
That guy talked really fast. I had hard to understand.
I know, I don't get why.
Dude, new. Interesting. She saved his life. We do know that for sure. Some Jamestown colonists had expected to find gold in Virginia. Instead of planting crops and building houses, the men spent their days searching for gold. Okay, let's think about this for a minute. You don't have anything to eat, but instead of planting crops, let's go look for gold. Seems like a bad plan to me. After some thought they had found gold, the colonists did nothing but dig for gold. But what they found was not gold. Soon men began dying of starvation and disease. By the end of their first year at Jamestown, only 38 of the settlers were still alive. A colonist wrote that what little wheat was left from the voyage from England contained as many worms as grains. Then John Smith was elected leader of the colony. He issued an order to the surviving men based on the Bible. He that will not work will not eat. Under Smith's leadership, the colonists built houses and dug wells for fresh water. They planted crops and fished in the river. Smith also began trading with Chief Powhatan, leader of the Powhatan people. Corn from the Powhatan helped keep the colonists alive. For a brief period, relations between the English settlers and the Powhatan were peaceful. Chief Powhatan's young daughter, Pocahontas, often visited Jamestown. John Smith later wrote that when he first met with Chief Powhatan, he was taken prisoner. He was about to be executed when his 12-year-old daughter, Pocahontas, saved his life. She then persuaded her father to let Smith go free. Historians are not sure if this story is true. Whether it is or not, Smith returned to England in 1609, and you'll read more about John Smith in his biography on page 163. The colony suffered without Smith's leadership. So many people died of hunger that this period became known as the starving time. With the population dwindling, Jamestown was nearly abandoned. However, the last survivors were saved and the colony was revived. So you have these people who are pulling really dumb ideas that they're going to go and, dig for gold instead of taking care of their needs like food, shelter, clean water. John Smith says this is not how this is going to go. You need to do some work. We need to get this put together. Otherwise, we're not going to live. And they started digging wells and things like this. Now, these wells eventually go dry because that's just what happens. And whenever the archaeologists went in and started digging, one of the things they wanted to check out was what is in the wells. Well, wells, when they were dry and couldn't be used anymore, became garbage cans. So if you had a pot you didn't want anymore, couldn't use, was broken, you'd throw it in. So at the bottom of these wells are a lot of artifacts. So a lot of the things that are being learned about this area are being gotten from those wells. The area of Jamestown, there is a cemetery, there is a church, there's a place where pottery was made, and it's in a triangle because it's like a fort. So if you ever get the chance, if you're in Williamsburg, head to Jamestown and see what there is. Pretty neat. Tobacco helps Jamestown to grow. What? The graves are marked. The graves are marked, yes. They are marked with crosses. I don't know what's going on because of the excavation. I just know whenever I was there, excavation was going on, and each of the graves was marked with a cross. And I believe there were 60-some ish. How can I best explain it? It's as if you took a patch of your backyard and you just buried people in it. I mean, they were probably in caskets, but not caskets like we know them to be. I don't remember there being names. They may not have marked the graves, so they might not know. They might not know who was actually there. Chandler. Sorry, that's 2 times today. Cameron.
But since you're talking about a store like over on my land, someone died and they just buried them like right there with like gravestone and everything.
So it was probably a family graveyard.
No, there only
There's just one.
Yeah.
So who knows what that
They
might
have
be?
like graves on the side, like on the road. They have some on the side.
I don't know. Okay, so tobacco helps Jamestown to grow. A crop that is going to grow really well in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, those places is going to be absolutely 100% tobacco. Okay, and this is going to be what's called a cash crop. A crop that you grow just to sell it. You can't eat it. You're not going to eat that, no way. You're going to sell it. Like corn and tomatoes, the tobacco plant is native to the Americas. Earlier European explorers and traders had learned from Native Americans how to grow tobacco. By the early 1600s, tobacco was becoming popular in England and other European nations. In about 1612, a settler named John Rolfe raised a crop of tobacco in the rich Virginia soil. Tobacco soon became Virginia's first cash crop, or crop grown for profit. Tobacco plants were soon seen everywhere in Jamestown. England's King James did not approve of tobacco. He called smoking hateful to the nose, harmful to the brain, dangerous to the lungs. This is in the 1600s this person said this. Definitely not far from being true. What? John Rolfe, who, the king? Oh, okay. Well, it's interesting. This is 450 years ago, and this guy, he knows what's happening. As we know today, King James was right about the harmful effects of smoking, but the king's opposition to smoking did not stop people in Virginia from raising tobacco. As the graph below shows, tobacco exports in England rose rapidly. If you look at that chart in 1615, there's hardly any tobacco being sold. But by 4 years later, in 1619, 60,000 pounds, 30,000 tons, is being sold.
What did it smell?
It's a leaf. Yeah, it's a leaf. They harvest it, they dry it, they cut it, and we smoke it. Farms were growing so quickly that farmers soon needed more workers. Thousands of indentured servants began arriving in Jamestown. Indentured servants agreed to work for someone for a certain amount of time in exchange for the cost of the ocean voyage to North America. Most indentured servants hoped to buy land of their own when they gained their freedom. Many never lived that long. Between 1619 and 1622, many of the newly arrived indentured servants died from disease, overwork, and mistreatment by their masters. So here's what would happen. You would be in England, say, hey, I would like to move to America. You would find somebody who needed an indentured servant. They would pay, I'll tell you, an indentured servant, what the person will do is they will pay for your boat ride to America. You're going to work for them for, say, 5 or 7 years, and at the end of that time, you're free to go. What they're telling you is most of these people never survived that 5 to 7 years because of disease, because of mistreatment, because of working too much. Okay? In 1619, another group of newcomers came to Jamestown. Let me back up a minute. At this time, slavery did not exist in America. Indentured servants was it. Someone would pay for that boat ride. You'd work for those people for a certain amount of time and you could leave. Slavery is different. Slavery at this time did not exist yet. Okay? So in 1690, another group of newcomers came to Jamestown. A Dutch ship arrived with 20 Africans. The Africans also worked as indentured servants and were later released. Some of them established their own tobacco plantations. In spite of the hardships of life in Jamestown, the colony continued to grow steadily. The marriage of John Rolfe and Pocahontas in 1614 helped maintain peace between England and the Powhatan people. So for those of you who believe that Pocahontas married John Smith, she did not. She married John Rolfe. Also, whenever they talk about these Africans who came with the Dutch, they were indentured servants. Those people worked for their 5 to 7 years or whatever was decided, and they were released. These Africans went out into America. They established their own tobacco plantations. They were not slaves. So there was a period of time in very early America where Africans were here and were not slaves. Okay?
You're still working, right? When they consider slaves.
They owned their own land. Indentured servant. Same thing as other people. They wanted to come to America. Someone paid for their passage. They came and worked for those people, and at the end of that time period, they could go. If you're a slave, you can never leave. The only way you could leave is if you bought your own freedom.
So the people in America would pay for the people in England to come to America, work for them, and then they could stay in America?
Exactly.
So the people that were coming over, would they own their land, or would
They could, or they could continue to work for someone else and be paid.
they can be paid too?
They could be paid to work, yes. Yes. Self-government in Virginia. The Virginia Company of London continued to attract more settlers to their colony. With this goal in mind, leaders of the company declared that settlers in Virginia should have such a form of government as may be the greatest benefit and comfort of the people. On July 30th, 1619, the Virginia House of Burgesses met for the first time. The House of Burgesses was the first lawmaking assembly in an English colony. All members were white male landowners. The House of Burgesses helped establish the tradition of self-government in the English colonies. So what they're saying is, they had to come up with some kind of a government here because they were so far from England that if there was no government here, things would just get out of control. So they established the House of Burgesses. And the House of Burgesses is going to rule what goes on in the colony of Virginia. This is going to be the start of what will eventually become the Revolution. Okay? You have these people who are governing themselves, and they're going to like it. And they're going to think, you know what, why do I have to listen to a king that is in England? I'm here. I'm struggling. I shouldn't have to pay taxes. So just this House of Burgesses is going to be the very, very beginning of what will end up being the Revolution, which will end up being the United States. Okay? Are we good? Okay. Is there anything you're confused about? Anything that we were going through that you kind of missed a step or it didn't make sense? Is there any terminology that we used that you weren't too sure about?
Wasn't the cash crop tobacco?
Yes. Other cash crops that are going to come later, cotton. Basically, you are growing it to sell it. You're not growing it to eat it. You're not growing it to use it. You are growing it just to sell it.
So you wouldn't use cotton or tobacco?
No. Most likely not.
Screw it, then.
Probably not. Why would you smoke it if you could sell it and make money?
Cheap.
You're addicted?
But don't they like it?
That's the thing. Because you could sell it to people in England and make a killing on it. That's why. Not that people here didn't smoke, because they did. But if you had a choice, you might use the cotton that you grow, but you're also going to sell it. Because you're going to grow more than you can use. So you're going to have that surplus that you can sell. Anything else? We're all good on everything. All right, so what you need to do for Thursday. Notes 1. You have 3 worksheets and the vocab sheet. You have lots of time. You'll be fine. Yeah, there's 3.
Do Thursday?
No.
Do Thursday.
We're done. We're at the back up.
You're already packed up. No, I mean you're gonna have lots of time before Thursday.
I